Hey guys, thanks for checking out the Film Geek. Today I'm wrapping up Schwarzenegger Week with my top 5 favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. So the rules of this list are simple. Number 1, none of the Spotlight films I did this week are going to appear in the list, and number 2, no Terminator films, because I feel that the Terminator films are a list for a different day. Okay, now this list isn't based off of any Rotten Tomatoes scores or Metacritic or anything of that sort. This list is just personal opinions. This has nothing to do with critic scores or anything. However, I do think these are 5 Schwarzenegger films that most audience would agree these are his best 5. So let's get things started, shall we, with number 5, and that's 1985's Commando. Now, Commando is what I would like to call the beginning of the Schwarzenegger action film. Now, to be a Schwarzenegger action film, you don't even actually have to have the man starring in your movie, but he's the one who started it, so here's the list of things that you're gonna need. Number 1, the main character has lost something or someone, and he's looking for him. Lots of guns, lots of violence. Comedic sidekick. And good-looking women. Now in this film, of course, the good-looking woman is the plucky sidekick, but sometimes if you have a comedian or someone else starring as the plucky sidekick, Schwarzenegger always makes sure that there is still an attractive lady to be in the movie. Coming in number 4 is 1994's True Lies. True Lies is Schwarzenegger action film perfection. You take all of the things that made Commando awesome and you make them bigger. You have a bigger story, you have a bigger budget, you have bigger everything. If you're gonna say that the hot babe trope is not in True Lies, need I remind you of the saucy little dance scene that she does later on in the film? True Lies has definitely become the golden standard for action films. Number 3 is the movie that taught us what's best in life, and that's 1982's Conan the Barbarian. Conan the Barbarian goes down as probably the first time I ever saw Arnold Schwarzenegger in a film. I have always loved fantasy films. It's one of my favorite genres that dates back to when I was a little bitty guy. I have always loved the idea of dragons and knights and wizards and all of that great stuff. So this movie was just perfect. You have Conan, this big muscle-bound dude, taking on a sorcerer. I mean, what is not to love about this movie, especially if you're 7? Even to this day, this movie feels absolutely epic to me. The world is just so well realized. The film is amazingly shot. It's got great cinematography, amazing fight choreography, and a dude punching a camel. Now guys, don't worry, the camel was perfectly fine. No camel was hurt in the filming of this movie. It was just a fun stunt, to the best of my knowledge. I looked it up, I tried to make sure that the camel was okay, to the best of my knowledge. Camel's okay. Okay, now we're getting to the top 2 films. Now the first thing I'd like to say about these movies are, in my opinion, if not for one thing, both of these movies would be dead equal. I could not pick a favorite out of these movies, but there's one factor that I'm going to get to when I get to number 1 on why number 1 is number 1. Alright, so number 2 is 1987's Predator. Oh my god. How many tough guys can you stuff in a film? I'm just gonna name a few. Carl Weathers, Bill Duke, Jesse the Body Ventura. Not to mention that this movie also gave the birth to 2 governors, Jesse Ventura, Arnold Schwarzenegger. One of the things I love about this movie also is with it being shot in a jungle, it makes the movie have a very timeless feel to it. You don't see a bunch of old cars or anything like that lying around. Sure, maybe someday helicopters are going to look a little bit different, but most of the film is in the jungle with not a lot of technology or anything like that around, so the movie just seems like it could happen at any old time. Speaking of timeless, the special effects in this movie are amazing. They're great, they're on point, they hold up today. The movie looks so great. To this day, I mean, no complaints whatsoever. The movie is still really, really beautiful. The foliage just adds so much color to the film. The movie is great because it's a horror movie that's in the daylight. And that's something else too, is the mashup of genres this film has. You have horror elements, you have science fiction elements, a military kind of, rescue mission type movie. I mean, this film goes through so many different types of movies that you sometimes forget what you're watching. Am I watching a horror movie? Am I watching action? I don't know, I just like it. Also too, if you're a gore hound, holy cow, this movie's got lots of great stuff for you. I mean, there's people getting their heads ripped out of their bodies, there's bloody, skinless corpses lying around. I mean, this movie has got enough in there to make you go, ew. The thing about the Predator movie also is that yes, it is part of a big franchise, like the Terminator, but the reason why it's on this list is because Arnold Schwarzenegger is only in one of them to my knowledge. Okay, there's some I haven't seen, but to my knowledge Schwarzenegger is only in the first film, so that's why it's on the list. Okay, so if Predator is not my number one, but I mean everyone pretty much agrees it's probably the best movie the man made, but if it's not number one, what's my number one? That's easy. 1990's Total Recall.
Get your ass to Mars.
Total Recall is also starring Sharon Stone and Michael Ironside. So the cool thing about this movie is it is a Schwarzenegger action film, but science fiction. They took Schwarzenegger action, put it in with science fiction, and I love it. Yes, Predator has elements of science fiction, however, Predator does not fall into that typical beat-by-beat Schwarzenegger action film like Total Recall does. So this movie has great violence, it has great gore, it has amazing one-liners, lots of fantastic shootouts, well choreographed fight scenes. This movie is much like True Lies, except I just like it a lot more. Now the reason this came in at number one, as I said, is for personal reasons. You see, this is the last movie that I sat down on the couch with a good friend of mine by the name of Teddy and watched before he passed away. So this movie holds a very special place in my heart. One of the things about our friendship was we did sit around and watch a lot of movies. He was my couch potato buddy that we'd sit there and play video games. He was my player two for many, many years. So the number one reason why this movie comes in at number one is because I have a very strong emotional connection to it, being that it was the last time the two of us sat down, watched a movie together, quoted out the lines, and shouted, "Get your ass to Mars!" over and over to each other. Yeah, I'm gonna miss you, buddy. So yeah, that's the number one reason why I love this movie so much, is because of the emotional attachment that I have to it with my good friend. So hey guys, not to end on a down note by any means, but that brings us to the end of another Film Geek video. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give the video a thumbs up if you liked what you saw. And of course, folks, if there's one thing that you can keep doing,
Let off some steam, Bennett.
that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.